We're going to use 2 blankets and maybe a strap for today. If you have them available, you can go ahead and grab those. And while you're doing so, I'll take the opportunity to remind you that everything that I'm sharing with you this morning is one of a myriad of options that you can choose from. So I will offer different options throughout the practice that you can choose from, or the option to do something completely different is there, or to find an option that works for you and what you need this morning. I always say that there's as many options as there are people in the world that practice yoga. So let it be mentally, physically, emotionally, exactly what it is that you need this morning. I'm coming to you from my mom's farmhouse here on Wolfe Island, Ontario, Canada, where I'm doing my yoga teacher training, one of my modules this weekend about the business of yoga. So I'm really looking forward to moving my body a little bit and giving my brain a bit of a break. If you need to, if you would rather turn off your monitors while you practice, feel free. You're all muted at the moment, but you can unmute yourself to ask questions at any time, or you can use the chat feature to ask a question either directly just to me, privately, or to group. And then lastly, if for some reason you're going to leave the practice and you don't intend on returning, if you have a moment to just drop me a private message, then I won't have to worry about it. And with that, let's get started. So I'd really like to get started today on my back. It's one of my favorite ways to start any of my practices because I don't spend a lot of time flat on the floor in my daily life. So keep your blanket within arm's reach, maybe your strap close by. I know in my body, when I come to lie flat on the yoga mat, my head tends to drop back and kind of compress the back of my neck. So if you find that your head is dropping back, feel free to bring a folded blanket underneath your head or a little folded towel. And then once you're there, just rock a little side to side and experiment with different options. You could have your knees bent and your feet to the mat. You could have your legs extended. You could turn knees in towards your chest. Whatever feels best for you. I'll likely have my head turned towards you for most of the practice so that you can hear me better. But feel free to allow your gaze to be up to the ceiling, maybe partially cries. And the nice part about lying in this way is it's a really great counter stretch or counter pose to seated or standing, how we spend most of our week. So if you're not already there, go ahead and bend your knees to bring your feet to the mat. Heel toe those feet out wide. They don't have to be too close to your bottom. And start a little bit of like windshield wipers side to side. So drop your thigh inwards, other thigh drops inwards. And then experiment. So this is the first place you come to, your first nature. Usually the movements that you do most often or the range that you're most comfortable in. So if you'd like, try a little bit of a different experience, taking the feet to each other or further away from each other or further or closer to your seat, just to see how that changes this pose for you. And the next time that your knees are over to the right, let's leave them there for a moment. If you're experiencing any feelings of compression in your back, tuck your hip creases just a little bit, almost like you're bringing your belly button closer to your thighs, moving like a bit into a pelvic tilt. And then with your top leg, so I've dropped my knees over to the right, so my top leg is my left leg. Keep that bit of a pelvic tilt, so your low back is nice and long, and we're working towards the front of the hip crease. You're gonna heel toe your left leg away from your body, so further behind you. And if you're experiencing any sensations in your knees, keep your foot flexed and bring your thigh a little towards the ceiling, see if it gets better or worse. Down a little towards the floor. Try to find a range that you could be in that doesn't feel strenuous on your knee. And the intention here is to open the front of that left hip so we're not compressing the back. Now with your left arm, bring it across your body towards your right arm, and then follow with your gaze. So look at your hand, follow it up like the sun rises up in the sky, and bring it all the way over to left. And then bring it back again. So you're only going, you might touch the ground, you might not. Bring the arms straight up to the ceiling. Your gaze will follow over to the left, opening away from your body, gazing to the left. And we'll do that just one more time. Opening up here. And as you bring the arm to the left, reach your right arm further away from you as well. So it's like the collarbones are broadening. And the next time your left arm comes over your body, just heel toe that left foot back in towards you again. And then bring both knees up to the ceiling. We're going to do the same thing on the side. So move a little bit here to kind of reestablish a new center, even though you might feel pretty off balance. We've only done one side and another. Heel toeing your feet wide so they're towards the edges of your mat, and both knees go over now to the left. There's lots and lots of choice of where you place your arms, where you place your feet. Heel toe your right foot, so it's your top leg that you're going to move behind you, and keep that low back really long. So you're not arching your back to move the thigh back, you're just opening into hip extension. Now let's take that right arm across to stack near your left, reach for your left, and then your head can follow. So up to the ceiling, over to the right as you look to the right if it's comfortable to do so. Let's do that 2 more times. Try to follow your breath. Maybe inhale to reach up and over to the right. Exhale to back around again. And the last time now, as you reach your left arm as well, so the collarbones feel broad, opening your windows, coming back around, and then heel toe that extended right leg back towards your mat. Bring both legs up towards center, and then move your body however you're craving. Maybe that's stillness, maybe that's movement. After a breath or two, we'll come back to center, and then take your strap. So your strap or your belt or your scarf, anything that's like long and narrow. With your strap being held in one hand and the other, you're going to loop it around your left foot and bring your left foot towards the ceiling. Maybe keep a little micro bend in your knee, your left knee, and then you're going to hug that left knee in towards your body. So also hold the back of your left leg, or interlace your fingers to hold the top of the knee, whatever feels better for you. You can always use your strap as an arm extender. So one of my favorite options is to kind of strap my leg and pull it towards me with the so that my back can stay relaxed. I don't have to push off my right foot to get there. Thinking of moving your knee just a little bit closer towards your face, as opposed to the thigh closer to your body, so that we're getting a nice stretch of the back line. And then whether you have your hands around your leg or your strap around the leg, instead of pulling down against the leg, you're going to push the leg against the strap and just hold that position. So you're going to engage the leg, push away as you hold tight in the arms, while you breathe, and then release that pushing, take a moment or two, and then we'll do the same thing again. You're holding the leg in this bent position, but the leg itself is pushing as though it's going to come out of this position, and you're going to resist while you breathe. Working at about a 6 out of 10. And then let that go, step it down, move your body however it's craving, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So take your strap, strap around your foot, strap around your shin, strap around your knee, or use your fingers, use your hands to clasp behind the thigh, over the knee, whatever feels comfortable for you. Intending that bent knee to move slightly closer to your face without lifting your bottom off the ground. And then engage the legs, so you're gonna push like it's gonna move away and resist the pushing with your arms while you breathe in and out through your nose, finding your own personal rhythm of breath. Then release that push or release that pull. Take a moment or two and we'll do it one more time. Breathing in and breathing out. And then engaging the legs, so it's as though you're going to step your foot back down to the ground, but you're going to resist while you breathe. And then let that go. Great job, everyone. Step it down. You can move your strap aside and just move your body however it's craving. I always love to take the opportunity when I'm making contact with the floor to roll as much as possible. It's great for your nervous system, for your circulation, for your lymph. So you could roll up and down the spine if you'd like. You could roll side to side if you'd like. I always have my favorite movement teachers are my kids. And if they do it, I need to do more of it. And they're big on rolling in all types of ways. From here, let's bring last position we're gonna do on our backs. We'll bend the knees again, feet to the ground. Try to position your feet in a way that you can make contact equally through the ball of your big toe, the ball of your pinky toe, and the center of your heel. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, for just a moment, lift all 10 toes, just the toes, not the foot. And notice how the structures of your foot become just a little more obvious now. And if you push a little into the ball of the foot, you might feel clearly the ball of the big toe. Maybe you can think of spreading that base wide to notice the ball of your pinky toe and the center of your heel. So try to equalize the pressure of your foot between those three spaces and then let the toes rest back down. From there, your heels are not too close to your seat. Notice the hip crease, right where the leg plugs into the hip socket. And lastly, notice which parts of your spine are making clear contact with the floor. So in my body, I can clearly sense, like right at the top of my sacrum, right at the where the flat part of my back becomes the round part of my seat. That's kind of my first clear point of contact. And my low back lifts away slightly from the floor, and then I've got a really clear point of contact behind my sternum, or kind of like above my rib cage. And then my shoulder blades are a little bit softer away from the floor, and then I've got a really clear connection with the back of my head. So I kind of have these three spots in my body that feel like if I were making a stamp on the ground, they would be the darker areas of the stamp. So for yourself, try to locate in your body, up and down your spine, where those points of connection are. And then we're gonna move the legs in the hip creases. So without moving your feet, you're gonna open the thighs away from one another and then bring them back towards one another. And start very small. Just out and in, like butterfly flapping its wings. Try to have both legs move at the same time. And if one seems to keep jumping ahead of the other, bring your attention into the slower of the two. And as you butterfly your legs in this way, try not to change those points of connection in your spine, so that this movement is isolated really to where the legs plug into the hip sockets. Let the movement grow. As the legs open further away, you might find yourself rolling to the pinky toe edges of your feet, but they still don't come into touch. We're flapping out and in. Be cautious you're not bracing yourself here. You're only going so far that you don't need to make those compensations. Easy, fluid movements, like a swing, like an empty swing, swaying back and forth in the wind. And if it starts to become challenging or feels like you're hitting speed bump, speed bump, speed bump, speed bump, just make the movement smaller or skip it. The next time that both knees are facing the ceiling, let's pause for a moment. And very slowly, with no rush, we're gonna roll over to one side and tuck yourself in on the side here. We were on our backs for a couple of breaths, so if it feels for you to tuck your knees close, tuck them close, or stretch your legs long, stretch them long. Use your arms to help you come up towards a seated shape now. And I really want to encourage you to find any comfortable seated shape for you. So that could be on a chair, that could be cross-legged, that could be sitting on top of blankets with your legs extended. Whatever feels best for you. One of the students in my teacher training, the one who stole personal breath from Jeff, he's in the class today, he described it so well. Once you're seated here, try to find yourself seated in a way so that it feels like your spine is floating on top of your hips. So as opposed to feeling like the compression of gravity pulling you down, can you adjust the tilt of your hips? Can you adjust the positioning of your body so that it feels effortless to hold the spine floating above your hips? And then once you've reached somewhere close to that, can you position your neck and head so that it feels like your head is floating on top of your neck? Letting the arms be heavy like hanging empty coat sleeves. And notice the span of your chest across the front of your shoulders, trying to equalize that with the span across your back of your shoulders. So you're neither curved forward nor pulling the shoulders back. You're sort of somewhere in between. And then regardless of what position you're sitting in, try to locate those bony protrusions at the tops of your thighs that are your sitting bones. And without leaning your body, can you just charge your right sitting bone down into the earth? So if you were taking like a stamp of my seat, it's almost like my right seat stamps a little harder than my left seat. It's a really sort of subtle movement of the deep muscles, but there's this very subtle shift in the hips that kind of happens. And then back to neutral, and then stamping the left side, which I'm finding harder to connect to. Left side stamp. Without holding the breath. And then we'll do the same thing. So imagine just with your sitting bones driving that right sitting bone down, and then the left sitting bone down. There's a really small joint right in the center of your pubic bones that allows for this movement to be possible. And though it's really small, it can have a big impact on how our back is feeling. And so this really simple kind of, it's almost like a stretch of that joint or mobilization of that joint is a better way to phrase it, can result in a lot of comfort. or a lot of tension being released. So it's not possible for you today, not to worry. I want you to get back to that center position where our spines are floating and our head is floating, and then circle your body around your hips or around your pelvis. So the pelvis is neutral, and we're gonna circle in one direction without changing the curvatures of your spine at all, including the curvature of your neck, and then circle in the other direction. So there's a little bit of an engagement that has to happen through the upper body to keep yourself strong while you circle around here. Find yourself back in the center. If your shoulders and neck are feeling a little bit compressed, or if they tend to be tighter, then when we inhale, I'd like you to bring your arms no higher than your shoulders. Otherwise, when you inhale, reach the arms towards the ceiling, and then as you exhale, keeping yourself in that neutral spine, try to twist from your belly button, moving to the left, and just let the arms come down wherever they rest. So we're not actually using the arms to propel us to a twist at all. They're just landing. And then inhale back to center, exhale into your twist. Inhale back center. It's your time to reorganize a neutral spine. Exhale to twist. Inhale to center. The next twist to the right. Let your eyeballs move as far to the right as they'll go. The next time you twist to the left, let your eyeballs move to the left as far as they'll go. Where your vision tends to go, we'll keep flowing with your breath. Where your vision goes, the body will follow. Flowing a couple more times. Without straining or pulling, just find what's available to you. And then you'll keep flowing in this way, especially if you're prone to like low back ache. I'd like you to keep flowing just as you are. If you increase the challenge, then you're going to keep your hands towards your heart or on your shoulders and twist without the arms. As long as you're not prone to back pain, we're going to speed up our twists a little bit. So the hands will come to the heart or they'll come to the shoulder. Your twist will be the same, but you can open if you want, and then inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And your twist will speed up. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So swinging the arms and twisting, whatever feels good for you. And speeding it up. Totally optional. Sometimes we add a little, in yoga we call it tapas, a little fire, a little heat, gets things moving. Sometimes we practice santosha, contentment, okayness with things as they are. So choosing if you need a little fire or tapas, or if you need a little santosha. And if you're not sure, then you test it out, trying both, seeing which serves you today, which one gives you whatever it is you need. Breathing in and out through the nose, fast or slow, your choice. Regardless of what type of twist we're doing, let's manage to do our last 2 or 3, and then we'll all meet in the center. So holding space for one another to finish our cycles. If you're not already there, we're gonna cross the legs into a position where it almost is like the ankle is behind the other ankle, as opposed to tucked underneath your body. So right now I have my right ankle in front of my left ankle. You might have the same or different. The heels don't have to be too close to your body. Maybe sitting up onto a blanket so the hips are higher than the knees, and then reach under, pull back on the fleshy bits of your seat. Really expose yourself onto the bony protrusions at the tops of your legs. relocate where a neutral spine is for you, where you can find yourself in as easy a place as possible against gravity. From those hip creases, we're gonna hinge forward. So it's really difficult as you start to hinge forward. Most people will start at waist height and kind of round themselves. I'm challenging you to keep connected with the hip, or with the sitting bones rather. So you could even keep your hands to your low back if you'd like that kinesthetic connection, and almost think of pulling your belly button forward slightly. You'll likely feel a little bit of a stretch in whatever leg is in front, more than the one that's behind. Broaden the collarbones, really connect to the sitting bones, and you're only going to go so far forward that you can keep the spine neutral. So whenever I'm doing this, the further forward I come, the more I think of almost like a little bit of a heart lift, because as you lean forward, gravity wants to pull you round. So it's almost like you need to engage with your body more and more. Sometimes it can feel really good to bring your fingertips behind you and kind of push forward as opposed to pulling forward. And then regardless of where you are in that position, we're going to find a little bit of cat and cow. So start by sticking your tail to the sky, opening your heart up so you get a little bit of a stretch on the front of your body, and then round, tuck your tail under, round your spine, stretching the back of the body. Reaching forward, shoulders roll back to kind of bring themselves closer to one another. And then rounding, shoulders roll away from each other. One more time. Heart lifts, collarbones broad, and then rolling yourself into this ball type shape. Let's come back to neutral spine. So we're back in our length, and use your hands to walk up to center. Now switch the cross of your legs so the other one is in front. And if at any time you're feeling strain in your knees, bringing additional props underneath your legs to support. It might take a couple of sort of shifts and adjustments. I sort of go to the first position, take a mental pick, and just try to copy that on the other side if it feels really strange. Find yourself neutral. Notice your breath. Keep your weight rooted down in the base of your body and hinge from those hip creases forward. Maybe it looks the same, maybe it looks really different. Two different sides of the body can have two really different experiences. Maybe you're pushing the hands. Maybe you're reaching forwards. Lifting the heart just a little. Make sure you're not rounding in the tailbone or rounding or compressing the back of the neck. And when you're ready, notice the rhythm of breath and follow your inhale to do 3 cat-cow movements. Focus on the heart, focus on the tail, and focus on the spine. And after your third round of cat and cow, we're going to come back to neutral. And from neutral all the way back up towards seated. Waiting there for the other people to join us. I'm going to turn sideways just to show you the next position. But I'll encourage you to come off of your blankets if you're sitting on blankets, just to practice this next position. I'm only coming sideways just so that you can see. So what you're gonna do is reach down and either hold the outside of your foot or the peace fingers around your first 2 toes. But how you're gonna get there is by bending your knees as much as you need to take hold of those positions. Now, the goal as we progress into this shape. So first of all, as I'm pulling on the toe or on the foot, I'm not just yanking them back towards me, but I'm actually pushing against my arm so that I'm not bending the toes back, they're pushing back against my fingers. The goal as we progress next into this shape is, if you start with your legs in, eventually I want you to try to have your knees and your feet, your toes pointing to the ceiling. But we need to get out of our own way first. So how we're gonna do that is you're gonna rock to one side, lift your butt up and walk it back. Walk to the end, lift your butt up and walk it back. And just keep walking until you reach the limit of your capacity, holding the feet, knees and toes facing up, even if your legs are in a bit of a V shape. Notice how when you walk the seat back, really quickly we make a clear connection with the base of the pelvis. Ideally, the low back is really long. If I were to find this pose the other way, it would look very, very different than finding it by walking your bum back. Back, 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 back. Maybe over the course of a few breaths, the legs will straighten more and more, but maybe they won't. Either option is just as valid. Keep pulling the feet against your arms. And then experiment ever so slightly. I want you to open the collarbones broader. So think of the collarbones moving further away from one another. Now send your breath all the way to the base of your pelvis. We're going to hold here for just 2 more breaths. After your second exhale, let yourself ragdoll forward. Maybe letting your head be really heavy, you could sort of shake out your head. Yes or no, trying to get all of the thoughts that you don't care to think right now out of your head. And then use your hands walking towards you to roll up slowly to a seated shape. And notice sitting on the ground without any blankets if your seated shape is slightly changed now. So usually the way that these poses work is after. So the body's always adapting when we're in periods of rest. Periods of parasympathetic nervous system is activated, that rest, digest, orient, learn. So when we're feeling sensations of stress or when we're learning a new skill, and stress is like a stretch, or even if it feels like a good stretch, the body still interprets it as like stress. It's like a stimulus, let's say. So we introduce a stimulus and the body is kind of, and then when we're in this after pose, in this period of rest, that's when the learning happens. That's when the organizational structures that are already built into your body, that's when the magic starts. Which always to me highlights the importance of rest. All right, so let's lastly come to one more pose that's kind of on our backs. So what I'd like you to do is grab 2 of your blankets, stacked one on top of the other, and maybe about as wide as like your torso or your shoulders. Definitely as long as the space from your hips to your shoulders. You could always use more blankets or less. I'm going to put my hood up because it gets in my way. And you're going to sit your bum low on that back. So my tailbone is kind of up on the edge of the blanket. And then as I roll back, my shoulder blades are the other edge. And I'm in a little bit of a back bend. So my blanket is kind of underneath my shoulder blades. all the way down to past my bottom. If this feels like too much of a back bend for you, you're welcome to lower a blanket to make this lower. I like to position the weight of my upper body into this triangle. So right in the center of the back of my head is the top of the triangle, and then the base is my two shoulder blades. If you're feeling any strain in your back, then after a couple of breaths, if that's still present, lower yourself to a lower blanket. The intention is a front opening, not necessary, and so we want to get that without the back compressing. Once you're in a back bend that feels supportive for you, you can try, if you'd like, heel toeing one of your legs out a little bit further from your body, so we start to open up in the hip. So I'll end up being on my heel, so I'm not going to put any pressure out through the back of my knee. So I'm on my heel so that I can pump the brakes a little if I need to, so that there's no pressure at all through the back of my knee. If that feels okay, you could try on the other leg. You could experiment with different arm positions. This is like the antidote to a seated, rounded spine. We're opening the hip flexors. We're extending through the back. But if it's too much strain, it's just going to be seen in your nervous system as a threat. So really take time to shift and adapt so it feels like a stimulus. It feels like an opening. It feels like a potential more than something outside of your potential, outside of your ability, something that introduces strain or pain. Notice what happens when you take your full breaths in and out through the nose that expand the front, side, and back of your torso. And remember that just the ocean's ebbing and flowing, at no point are you still. Even when you look still, there's slight evolution, slight growth, there's slight movement, whether that be through your imagination or in your physical structure. In a couple of breaths, I'm going to guide us out of this shape. Keep yourself super heavy, but slowly bend the knees and bring your feet back to the mat. If you're comfortable doing so, bring one arm up over the head, kind of resting on the floor beside your ear. It'll be a little bit of a drop, but I want you to stay connected to the blankets as long as you can. So try not to lift up off of the blankets. Take your other arm across the body, rolling over to the side till you find yourself off of your little lift and onto the side of your body. And here you can stay for as long as you need to find a new sort of equilibrium. If it's painful for your shoulder to have your arm above your head like this, you can always use it under your head instead. Breathe into the back line of your body, most especially, like you're trying to inflate the shell of the turtle. And notice what you notice in your body. After another breath or two, I'll invite you to find your way to the last pose of our practice, which is a pose of rest. So that could be exactly how you are right now. It could be back into a different pose that we've already practiced. And it could also be something that you might not associate with a yoga pose, but every time you move your body to a shape, you're practicing asana. So maybe you're sitting in your favorite chair, your favorite part of the couch. Physically comfortable without falling to sleep. I'll be seated so that I can hold space for us and also so that you can hear me when it's time to come out of this pose. So trust that you can walk that fine line between consciousness and sleep. And you'll hear me bring you back with the sound of my voice at the end of practice. Now that you've been in that shape for a couple of breaths, shift and adjust and adapt if you need to. And remember, throughout this pose, although the goal is stillness, the bigger goal is comfort. So if you need to shift or adjust throughout the pose, feel free. If you become aware that this shape is not actually serving your needs, change the shape if you need to. When I practice this, I close my eyes 9/10 of the way so that I can go deep without going too deep, so that I can stay a little present without staying too present. And then allow for your mind's focus or your attention to fall on a single point. Maybe it's a thought, maybe it's a sound, maybe it's a sense you feel. Allowing for your anchor point to make itself seen to you. And then completely giving your attention over to that place. As your attention wanes and you start to think about the day ahead or the past, let your anchor pull you back to its place of presence. As you start to drift to sleep, find your anchor and allow it to be a practice not of staying focused, but as a practice of coming back to focus as many times as you need. I'll bring you out of this practice in a moment or two with a short reading, so continuing to rest until you hear my voice again. You don't have to always be profound or present yourself as perfect or take on the mantle of being all-knowing or figured out. There is room for you, always room for you to not know, to follow, to give yourself grace to fumble and falter and look to others for guidance. There is nothing wrong or weak about asking for help. To be unsure, to commit lifelong learning, to admit and take responsibility, to not think that you have to always be strong. Take a break from standards, break from the ego, break from people you need to break from, break in peace. Notice yourself breathing, starting to move your body back to life, to stretch out or tuck in, to eventually roll over and come up to seated. Taking your time to position yourself comfortably in a seated shape. And as you welcome yourself back to your surroundings in your body in this space, you're welcome to join me in offering gratitude to the people whose land we're practicing on. Gratitude to our ancestral roots of yoga, all of the people who practiced before us and gifted us these practices. Gratitude to the other people who shared space with you, and maybe gratitude to yourself for taking the time this morning to come to your mat, for doing your little part of good in the corner of the world. And I want to thank you all for joining me this morning and welcome you to coming back again next week at the same time. I'm practicing as well on Wednesdays and Thursdays, so take a look at the calendars to see for those times. And I hope to see you all again really soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day.